The courtroom was thick with silence. Not a cough, not a whisper, not even the rustle of papers. The air was filled with tension, so palpable it seemed the walls were holding their breath. The reporters leaned forward, pens hovering above their notepads. The jury sat rigid, anticipating the storm everyone knew was going to erupt. And then Meri Brown stood. Her chair scraped against the floor. Rough and intentional, she held a folder in her hands. The proof of years of deception crammed against her chest. Her face, though worn with anguish, contained an unshakable fortitude. This wasn't the same Meri who had once quietly swallowed her tears on reality television. This was a woman changed, hurt? Yes, but no longer quiet. Her voice trembled at first, not from weakness, but from rage that had been caged for far too long. "Kody," she said, her words slicing through the silence. "Give me my money back. Every single dollar you stole from me." The courtroom collectively gasped, the echo ringing like a wave against rock. The judge's eyes bulged, his normally placid demeanor usurped by real shock. Even the bailiff shifted uncomfortably, as though he too sensed the ground had just shifted beneath them. All eyes flickered to Kody Brown for a split second. He leaned back in the chair, with a smirk stuck on his face, attempting to appear unconcerned, but betraying himself. His fingers drummed against the highly polished oak table. A drop of sweat traced its way down his temple, betraying the smokescreen of arrogance he struggled to keep up. "Your money was family money," Kody growled, his tone dripping with contempt. "You signed up for this when you married me. Don't cry now." The statement hung between them, acrid and biting. But Meri didn't bat an eye. She knew him all too well. She'd lived in his shadow, tolerated his dismissals, his gaslighting, his favoritism, his cruelty disguised as leadership. She had invested decades of her life, her heart, soul, and money into creating something that was to be a legacy family. And now, in front of the world, she was taking back every shred of herself he'd stolen. Her own hand shook ever so slightly as she placed her folder on the desk before her. She didn't open it yet. No, timing was key. The suspense, the anticipation, they were her weapon now. The courtroom hummed softly with murmurs. A reporter wrote frantically, his pen almost ripping through the page. Jurors looked around with anxious looks, some with sympathy for Meri, some with curiosity at the whirlwind of evidence she bore. But Meri didn't care about those things. Not now. Her gaze was fixed on Kody. "Don't flip this," she went on, her voice firmer, more even. "I didn't come here to fight with you about what marriage means to you. I came here because you stole money that belonged to me. Money I earned, money I trusted in you with. And you diverted it away like it was yours to spend." Robin, who was sitting behind Kody, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Her hands were clenched together so tightly, the knuckles turned white. She attempted to keep her face neutral. But Meri saw it, that flash of guilt. That silent confirmation. The judge finally spoke, his voice breaking through the tension. "Mrs. Brown, are you saying your husband?" He corrected himself. "Your ex-husband took money from you directly without your permission?" Mary's head snapped toward him, her gaze unyielding. "Yes, Your Honor. Not just once, not just twice, but over and over again for years. He drained me while convincing me it was for the family. But I've discovered where it really went." A sharp murmur swept through the gallery. Some gasped, others whispered names. Robin's name especially. Cameras clicked as the press tried to capture every flicker of emotion on Mary's face. Kody's smirk faltered. His jaw tightened. He slammed his hand on the table, making several people jump. "Lies," he snarled. "This is all lies. Every penny was for the family. She knew that. She's angry because she lost her position. That's what this is actually about." His voice broke on the final word, his fury betraying what his sneer attempted to conceal. Fear. Meri leaned forward slightly, gazing at him like a hunter observes prey. For years she had been the silent one, the forgotten one. Today she wasn't. She wasn't prey. She took another step forward, her heels snapping sharply on the courtroom floor, each one calculated and stiff. "You dare not label me bitter, Kody." she spat, her voice firm and crisp like glass. I am not here because of your actions on my heart. I am here because of your actions on my trust, my future, and my money. You stole from me and I will make you see it. The judge brought his gavel up once, prepared to call for order, but paused. Even he appeared mesmerized by the drama playing out before him. Kody shifted uncomfortably in his seat, pulling at his collar. He wanted to yell again, spin her words back on herself, reclaim the power he always had in the safety of his own home. But this was not his living room. This was not a confessional on some reality TV show. This was a courtroom. And there, truth mattered. Evidence had strength, and Meri had both. The silence dragged on, thick and oppressive. And then slowly, calmly, Meri opened her folder. The tearing of paper against paper was thunderous in the still room. She didn't reveal the documents yet. Not yet, for that moment would have to wait. For now she left the tension suspended like a guillotine. Kody's eyes tracked the folder as if it were a weapon loaded. His smirk had disappeared now. His lips compressed into a thin line. His leg bounced up and down nervously under the table. Meri breathed deep. You said it was family money. You said it was for the kids. For the houses. For our future. But I do know where it went. Kody. And when I produce these documents. She swept her eyes over the room. So will everyone else. The gallery came alive once more. Some leaned in, eager for the expose. Others clapped their hands over mouths. Robin's face had lost its color. She mouthed something in a hurry to Kody. But he shooed her off, his fear poorly concealed. And then, Meri surprised everyone. She placed the folder on the table and folded her hands over it. She didn't rush. She didn't blow up. She allowed the silence to choke Kody more than her words ever could. The judge cleared his throat, pushing up his glasses. Mrs. Brown, if you do have evidence, you will be able to bring it forward in a formal manner. But let me be very clear. Unsubstantiated accusations carry no power in this court. Meri nodded once, her lips compressing into the thinnest smile. Don't worry, Your Honor. I didn't come here with accusations. I came here with proof. The courtroom murmured once more. And this time Kody could not conceal the fissure in his ego. He fidgeted in his chair, his fingers tapping quickly against the table, his arrogance melting away little by little. And for the first time in generations, power had tilted to the other side. Meri Brown was no longer the silent woman who hung in the shadows. She was the woman pulling Kody Brown into the light. And he knew it. The judge's gavel came down once. Proceed with evidence, he ordered, his tone commanding. Meri's lawyer, a sharp-eyed man in a dark suit, rose from his chair. Every movement was precise, deliberate. He knew the gravity of this moment. In his hands was a thick folder, identical to the one Meri had clutched earlier. But unlike hers, this one was organized, tabbed and ready to dismantle the empire Kody Brown had built on charm and manipulation. He moved towards the bench slowly, his gleaming shoes ringing out in the silent courtroom. Each step was a drumbeat, heralding the start of Kody's disintegration. Your Honor, the attorney started, his tone steady but authoritative. We have financial statements of transfers over the past decade, from Mrs. Brown's sole proprietor business accounts, into accounts held solely by Mr. Brown, and in some instances, Mrs. Robin Brown. The judge reached for the folder, his brow knitted as he sorted through the pages. His bristle of paper was thunder in silence. The gallery broke into gasps of whispers. His Robin's name. It hissed poison on reporters' and spectators' lips. Pens scribbled wildly on notepads. Cameras flashed. The air was charged with tension. Kody's jaw clenched. Red-faced, he slapped his hand on the table so hard it even shocked his own attorney. That's not what it looks like. Kody growled, his voice shrill, urgent. All that money went into the family account. She's distorting the facts. But they only added wood to the fire. The attorney turned, holding one page high for the jury to witness. Numbers covered the page. Columns, dates, figures. But at the top in bold letters was written, transfer to Robin Brown, $150,000. The attorney's voice cut over the gasps. Family expenses, Mr. Brown. Or did the family go on vacation to Hawaii without Mrs. Brown? The jury leaned forward in their seats. The gallery murmured more loudly. Robin glared at her lap, her face flushing. Meri, rigid beside her attorney, did not flinch. Her silence was stronger than any rant. For years, Kody had talked down to her, ignored her, manipulated her words. But here, the proof spoke for her. The judge peered up at the papers, his expression stern. Mr. Brown, these are large transactions. A number of them are in the hundreds of thousands. Are you saying to this court that Mrs. Brown was aware of and sanctioned these transfers? Kody rested forward, his fingers white-knuckled on the edge of the table. She was, of course. She was my wife. What we had was all shared. She understood how things functioned. She's only faking it now because she's upset I moved on. The words hurt, but they didn't shatter Meri. Not this time. She slowly got up, her tone steady but full of the heavy weight of years. No, Kody, I didn't know. You didn't tell me. You commanded. You took. And whenever I questioned, you said I was selfish, that I didn't believe in the family. You didn't ask. You manipulated my silence. The jury observed her intently now. No longer merely a woman battling for her money, but a woman taking back her dignity. The attorney probed on, his voice biting. Mr. Brown, will you tell me why, 3 times in succession, you withdrew money immediately after Mrs. Brown had put profits from her own business into the joint account? Kody's mouth opened, then shut. His eyes scanned across to his lawyer, across to Robin, and back to the jury again. His bravado crumbled under the pressure of irrefutable proof. I don't remember those specific dates, he stammered. The attorney moved in closer. Would you like me to recite them? Because I can read them out. In January 14, 2018, $75,000. Transfer to Robin Brown's boutique account. March 3, 2020, $112,000. Transfer to a property deed with only Mr. and Mrs. Robin Brown listed. October 22, 2021, $60,000. Cash withdrawal. No record of what it was spent on. The words struck like hammer blows. The gallery gasped more and more with each date. Even the judge's face hardened. Kody's face reddened, his cool demeanor faltering. This is absurd. That money paid for houses, educated kids, kept everyone afloat. I was doing what was best for the family. Meri jerked her head toward him, her eyes flashing. No, Kody, you were acting in your best interests. In Robin's best interests. In your pride. You let me fight while you saved the day. Robin winced at the charge, her lips compressing. She couldn't risk looking at Meri. The lawyer's voice turned ice cold. Mr. Brown, this has nothing to do with family. This is about theft, lying, and violation of trust. You can try to spin it however you like, but the figures don't lie. The jury nodded in agreement. Reporters clacked away at their keyboards, some already writing headlines. The judge at last lifted his gavel. Order, order in the court. His voice rang out, quieting the room. He spoke to Kody, firmly. Mr. Brown, if these papers are authenticated, and they will be, you will have more than polite apologies to defend yourself. This court does not take financial fraud lightly. For the first time, Kody's smirk disappeared altogether. His mask cracked. He slumped back into his chair, his body rigid, his eyes scanning everywhere but Meri. And Meri. She sat upright, serene, almost queenly, not because the battle was done, but because the tide had shifted. The woman he used to write off as weak had just cornered him in front of the whole world, and Kody Brown had nowhere to turn. The courtroom was buzzing like a hive. Reporters whispered furiously to one another. Jurors exchanged uneasy glances. The gallery leaned forward in their seats, hanging on every detail. Meri's documents had already shifted the tide. The numbers were clear, the betrayal undeniable. For the first time in years, the world was finally seeing Kody Brown not as the charming patriarch from television, but as a man cornered by his own greed. Meri sat stock still, her folder in front of her shut. She didn't need to yell. She didn't need to say a word. The proof had already done that. She just sat, observing, waiting. Her silence rang out greater than Kody's denials could ever possibly manage. Kody, meanwhile, was unraveling. His face was red, His collar constricted around his neck, as if it were strangling him. His knee jiggled furiously under the table. He mopped sweat from his forehead, looking furtively in Robin's direction. But Robin couldn't rescue him this time. Her own name was bogged down in the money trail. She looked away, her hands wrapped around her lap like lifelines. As the judge was set to call the next witness, Kody's attorney stood. A tall, poised man with a chilly smile. In stark contrast to his client, he exuded serene self-assurance. He did not fumble papers or stutter. No, he seemed as if waiting for this precise moment. He cleared his throat. "Your Honor, if I might." The judge nodded wearily. Briefly, the attorney dipped into his briefcase and retrieved a large sealed envelope. Heavy, thick, stampede with official markings. He walked to the bench in slow, deliberate stages, as if each move was part of an act. The whole courtroom came forward. The judge took the envelope, scowling. "And what is this?" The smile on the lawyer's face broadened. "Within that envelope are letters which will show Mrs. Brown's allegations are not only inflated, but that she herself willingly signed her financial entitlement years ago. She wasn't stolen from. She consented." The statement slammed into the room like a thunderclap. People gasped in amazement. Reporters nearly crawled over themselves, writing the statement down. Jurors brusquely turned to Meri, shock painted on their faces. Mary's stomach dropped. Her breath caught in her throat. Her mind scrambled. What was in that envelope? What had she signed? She remembered countless nights, sitting at the kitchen table with Kody. He would shove papers toward her, brushing off her questions, with that same patronizing smile. "It's just for the family, Meri. Don't worry about it. Trust me." And she did. She had trusted him. Because at that time, she still believed in him. She still believed in them. Her hands only shook slightly on the table, but her expression was serene. Years of experience had prepared her to hide her fear. The judge glanced at her attorney. "Counselor, does your client have knowledge of these so-called documents?" Mary's lawyer bristled. His jaw clenched as he pushed up his glasses. "Your Honor, this is the first we've heard of this evidence. I highly object to it being presented at this point without initial disclosure." The defense attorney sneered. "We just received them, Your Honor. But they're crucial to the truth of this matter." The judge drummed the envelope with his fingers. The courtroom was quiet once more, waiting. Kody sat back, the sneer returning to his lips. It was subtle, but it was there. The self-satisfied confidence of a man who just regained control. He slanted towards Meri, speaking low but loud enough for the people around them to hear. "Told you, Meri. You can't beat me. You never could." Meri did not move. She did not even blink. But her heart beat inside her chest like a drum. Her brain reeled, memories leaping out of it of all the papers she had signed in haste. All the times Kody had pushed her into silence. The judge finally addressed them. "This court will consider the contents of this envelope prior to making a ruling regarding its admissibility. It will stay sealed in the meantime, until I have time to determine its relevance." The gavel fell once. "We will have a brief recess." The courtroom exploded with sound. Reporters ran out of the doors to make telephone calls. Jurors whispered in hushed conversation. Spectators hummed, their voices colliding into chaos. But Meri remained motionless, eyes fixed ahead. Her knuckles were white around the edge of the table, her fingers cramped into claws. She felt Kody's gaze on her, that smirk that had tormented her for so long. Her lawyer moved in close. "Don't panic," he urged sharply. "This is a strategy. Even if there are signatures, we can claim coercion. We can claim manipulation. The truth remains with us." Meri slowly nodded. But in her mind, there was a whirlwind of thoughts. What if this letter ruined everything? What if the court took Kody's lies for the truth? What if after all these years of suffering, he got away scot-free? Robin finally leaned in toward Kody, breathing hotly. "You promised this would never come up. You promised." The smile on Kody's face did not waver. He grumbled back, "Relax, checkmate." But across the table, Mary's resolve hardened. She looked at Kody, not the man she once loved, but the man who had stolen her money, her trust and her dignity. She had walked into this courtroom to fight for justice, and she wasn't about to let a sealed envelope end her battle. The recess bell, the temporary pause. Everyone filed out in a rush, their voices resonating down the corridor. But Meri sat there, gazing at that envelope on the judge's bench. To everyone else, it was merely a pile of documents, but to Meri it was a specter, a reminder of every moment she'd been quieted. Every moment Kody talked her into giving up just a bit more of herself. She muttered under her breath, so soft she could hear it alone. Not this time. Her lawyer returned, catching the resolve in her gaze. And for the first time since the trial had started, he smiled. The fight was hardly over. The tension was merely starting. The courtroom resumed after recess. The judge came back, the envelope still sitting unopened on his desk. Everyone's gaze went to it like it was a bomb about to go off. The jurors were stiff, their faces formally blank. The gallery was packed again, full of the sound of whispers. Reporters fiddled with cameras and laptops, waiting for the next installment of drama. Meri remained standing as the judge allowed her attorney to take the floor once more. She wasn't shaking anymore. No, something had happened while she'd been away from that witness stand. The fear was still present, hidden deep within her breast, but it no longer had hold of her. What burned through instead was fire. She took a single step forward, her voice echoing through the room. I trusted you, Kody. For decades I trusted you. I believed every word you said about family, about unity, about love. And what did you do with that trust? You used it to strip me of everything I worked for. The room went silent. The only sound was her voice, cracking with pain but sharpened with resolve. Kody leapt to his feet. You were never coerced. You signed those documents. You knew what you were doing. Don't you dare come into my courtroom and play the victim now. The judge held up a hand. Mr. Brown, calm down. But Kody disregarded him, jabbing at Meri with shaking fingers. She remained in that marriage because she desired the name, the fame, the money. Don't let her con you. She's bitter because I moved on and discovered happiness with Robin. The courtroom burst into gasps. Reporters pecked frantically at their keyboards. Cameras zoomed in on Meri's face, hoping to capture the flash of pain. But Meri didn't cry. Not this time. She angled her face towards him, tears beading but not falling. Happiness, she whispered, her voice slicing through his tirade. You call it happiness when you steal from one woman to nourish another. You call it happiness when you used us against each other, making me worthless while playing the hero for her. She moved a step in his direction, never once breaking eye contact. You mentioned me staying for the money. Kody, I didn't stay for money. I stayed because I believed in love being sacrifice. I stayed because I believed loyalty was about holding on. I stayed because I believed we were creating something true. But the truth? Her voice increased, shaking with rage and sorrow. The truth is I was constructing your dynasty. Brick by brick, dollar by dollar. I was putting in the groundwork for you to provide Robin with what I believed we were building together. Robin shifted in her chair, her lips pressed tight, eyes glistening. She couldn't look at Meri. Not now. Not when the truth was spilling like broken glass across the floor. The judge's gavel struck. Order, but Meri didn't stop. She couldn't. Years of silence had built to this moment. You didn't steal my money, Kody. You stole my trust. You stole my future. And you stole my dignity each time you told me I was wrong for questioning you. You said I was selfish. You said I didn't know what it meant to be family. But the truth is, you never wanted a family. You wanted control. The jury's gaze was now upon her. A few leaned forward, hands clenched tightly together in front of them. A few shook their heads, as if they felt the burden of her deceit too. Kody opened his mouth to object, but nothing was said. He pounded his fist on the table instead, his face twisting with anger. She's manipulating everything. She's turning me into a monster. Meri's attorney interrupted brusquely. Mr. Brown, nobody is making you sound like anything. Your conduct speaks for itself. The judge nodded resolutely. That will do, Mr. Brown. If you cannot manage to keep your tongue still, you will be taken away. Kody leaned back into the chair, seething, his chest puffed up in shallow gasps. The smirk he had sported before had been completely erased. He now appeared to be cornered, like an individual observing his painstakingly built mask shatter brick by brick. Meri breathed deeply, her expression softening, but her determination not weakening. I gave you everything, Kody.
and I don't want your apologies. I don't need your pity. I need justice. I need what belongs to me, and I need the world to know who you are." The gallery broke into whispers. Reporters clacked away, as if their fingers were burning. This was no longer a divorce trial. This was the destruction of a reputation, in real time, for everyone to see. Robin finally crept closer, her voice shaking as she whispered something into Kody's ear. He yanked his arm back, hissing at her. Cracks in Kody's mask for the first time were joined by cracks in the partnership he had formed with Robin. The judge spoke once more, his tone firm but even. "This court will take careful consideration of Mrs. Brown's testimony. If it is established that her assent to financial contracts was given through manipulation, intimidation, or failure of full disclosure, then the validity of those contracts will be brought into question." The authority of his words was palpable in the room. Kody swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bouncing gleefully. He understood what that meant. If the judge decided that Meri had been coerced, then the so-called safety net of that sealed envelope would become nothing more than shreds of paper. The jury shifted once more, the tension tight, electric. Meri sat down, her hands calm now. She had exposed her heart, revealed the betrayal, and converted her pain into something more deadly than any sheet of paper in Kody's arsenal. She had been drowned out by his voice, his ego, his dominance for years. But in this courtroom, this time, the world was hearing her, and truth rang out louder than Kody's fabrications could ever possibly be. The envelope rested on the judge's desk like a cocked gun, unopened but whispering menace. All eyes in the courtroom fixed on it, mouths frozen, hearts racing. The quiet was so dense, it was as if the entire room was taking hostage, waiting for the inevitable to occur. The judge cleared his throat, fingers lightly placed on the rim of the envelope. "Prior to proceeding, this court has to dispose of the contents of this evidence presented by Mr. Brown's attorney." A wave of whispers interrupted the gallery. Cameras snapped. Reporters leaned forward, feeling a bombshell ready to explode. Meri sat stiff in her chair, her white knuckles clenched around the armrest. She had seen Kody's anger. She had withstood his gaslighting and betrayal. But this envelope, this was unknown. And the unknown could either exonerate her or ruin everything. Kody leaned back smugly, his confidence slowly returning. That old smirk crept back onto his face. He whispered something to his lawyer, who gave a curt nod. For the first time since Meri's testimony, Kody looked like a man with the upper hand again. The judge cut the envelope open with a silver knife and drew out a large pile of papers. His forehead creased as he read, turning page after page in silence. The room leaned forward together. At last, the judge glanced up, his face somber. "This changes everything." Gasps ran around the courtroom. Reporters clacked away on their keyboards. The jury exchanged cautious glances, their faces impassive. Meri's stomach dropped. Her lawyer leaned toward her, whispering urgently, "Stay calm. Whatever it is, we'll address it." Kody took advantage. He rose, holding his arms out wide, as though he were the unfairly maligned victim of all this. "You see?" he yelled, his voice carrying. "You see how she depicts me? As a thief, as a liar. And here is the truth, right in front of the judge. The truth she wouldn't let anyone else see." The judge rapped the gavel. "Mr. Brown, sit down. You will have your say." But Kody didn't pause. He faced the jury, the cameras, his cheeks burning with fervor. "I never did steal from her. She gave freely. And here," he pointed at the documents, "is proof. Signed, dated, and sealed. She knew where every dollar went. She agreed." The gallery hummed more loudly, half in shock, half in sympathy. Meri rose now, her eyes burning. "Don't distort this, Kody. You call it choice when you trap someone with deceit. You call it agreement when you have leverage over them. That isn't choice. That's manipulation." Her voice broke, but she continued, her words cutting through the din. "Yes, I signed. But I signed because you said it was for the family. You said it was for our kids. You said if I didn't, I'd be ruining everything. I didn't sign for Robin's house. I didn't sign for your ego trip. I signed because I thought I was saving us." The jury leaned forward again. Meri's voice carried not just pain, but truth. Kody's lawyer finally stepped in. "Your Honor, these documents clearly show Mrs. Brown's financial consent. Whatever emotional claims she makes are irrelevant to the legality of these signatures. But the judge did not reply at once. He shuffled the documents once more, his expression impassive. Then, with a slow deliberation, he lifted his eyes to Meri.
Mrs.
Brown, did you, on signing these papers, realize fully that the money would not go to the extended family, but rather be dedicated solely to Mr. Brown and Mrs. Robin Brown's residence? The query cut through the room like a knife. Meri stood stock still, her throat constricted. She recalled the evening vividly. The documents, Kody's voice exhorting her, his hand guiding hers toward the pen. His words, "It's for us, for the family. Don't you trust me?" Tears pricked at the edges of her eyes, but she shook her head vigorously. "No, I did not know. He lied to me." The judge's eyes grew dark. He looked at Kody. "Mr. Brown, is that true? Did you reveal to Mrs. Brown the nature of these funds before she signed?" Kody stuttered, the smile faltering. I said it was for us, for the family. That's what I always told her." The judge prodded, his tone stern. "Yes or no, Mr. Brown? Did you clearly say that these monies would be redirected only to yourself and Mrs. Robin Brown?" Silence.
Cody's mouth agape, then snapped shut. His jaw clenched. He glanced at Robin, who squirmed uncomfortably under the scrutiny of the whole courtroom. The silence hung, heavy and incriminating. Lastly, the judge placed the papers on the bench. "This court will adjourn again. When we reconvene, a decision will be rendered as to the admissibility of these documents. In the meantime, both sides are ordered not to depart from the courthouse." He slammed the gavel. The room descended into pandemonium. Reporters rushed forward, cameras clicking. The jury filed out with strained faces. Onlookers hissed excitedly. "Did you see his face?" He couldn't even respond. Meri slumped in her chair, shuddering but intact. She had weathered the tempest, and while the result hung in the balance, she saw that the tide was turning. Kody leaned over his attorney, his words a biting whisper snatched up by a nearby microphone. "We can't allow it to unravel. If she prevails, I stand to lose everything." Robin seized his arm, her own face white. "Kody, what did you conceal? What else are you hiding in those documents?" But Kody said nothing. His gaze flew toward the bench of the judge, toward the envelope once more closed, its contents partly revealed but still shrouded in secrecy. The camera snapped to close-up as he curled his fists, his facade of confidence crumbling around the edges. And then, in the last instant before the feed went black, the judge's clerk leaned forward to whisper something in the judge's ear. The judge's eyes flared ever so slightly. He glanced at Kody, glanced at Meri, glanced back at the envelope. The gavel hit again. "This court will resume tomorrow morning." The screen went black, leaving viewers gripping their chairs. To be continued.